So have you ever had a patron ask you for a good book to read? It's kind of a subjective question. I mean, what's a good book? It's a good book to the patron. Or you have a patron that's really caught up in a series and wants the next 3 books in the series, and that's completely out of the realm of what you read. What we'll talk about in this is how to answer those questions and other reader advisory questions. So what is reader advisory? Reader advisory involves suggesting titles, either fiction or nonfiction, to a reader through direct or indirect means. Diana Tixter Harold, the author of Genre Reflecting, A Guide to Popular Reading Interests, states that reader advisory is the act of putting people together with the books they love. So there's 2 methods of reader advisory. There's a direct reader advisory and indirect reader advisory. First one I want to talk about is direct reader advisory. This one's a patron-librarian interaction. It's a non-judgmental assessment of the personal preferences of the reader. These transactions usually occur in person, but they can also occur over the phone or through email, chat reference, text, social media, or other ways of communication. Offering help when a patron is having trouble finding a book on your shelves, library shelves, is an opportunity for reader advisory. And I'm sure we've all come across somebody who is looking for something to read. Usually my answer is you've come to the right place if you're in a library. But now we have to go a little further and try to figure out exactly what they're looking for. One way is to ask a series of questions to find out what the reader's likes and dislikes are, including genre, writing style, tone, pace, setting, plot elements, subject, or some other criteria. And one way to do it is to listen to cues and clues in that conversation. For example, when someone says, I like this author, is there another similar author? Now that's your clue that they're really looking for a read-alike. Or do you have any books like this one book that I read or this title that I read? That's where you're looking for similar books on, either a particular genre, setting, subject, or plot, or something very similar to what they enjoyed reading before. Sometimes you come across that patron that says, I don't really read much, but I mostly watch TV and movies. And you can recommend books that are based on movies or shows. For example, if they're really big fans of the HBO series Game of Thrones, of course, you can recommend the series Song of Ice and Fire series by George R.R. Martin, which the show Game of Thrones is based on. Sometimes there's a new movie coming out, something about crayfish. And what they're looking for is a book, Where the Crawdad Sings. And sometimes they don't realize that a movie was based on a book. For example, Fight Club is based on a book by Chuck Palahniuk. Now, indirect reader advisory is passive. It's more directed at a broader audience than just one person. And so probably the most common one is the themed book displays. This is a form of reader advisory. The one on the left is a book versus movie. And as you can see in the picture, they've paired the movie up with the book, and that allows the patron to check out both and read the book and compare it to the movie and see which one they like best. The one on the right is a themed one. This one's on the crime stories, and they've got it decorated with some crime tape and magnifying glass and some clues. And this is probably the most common indirect reader advisory. Another really common one are the reading lists on bookmarks. The one on the left is just simply cardstock with genre and then books listed underneath that. And then the one on the right is kind of a fun way to get staff involved. This is a staff recommendation. So these are all the books that Kim recommended. And again, these are forms of indirect reader advisory. Another opportunity for indirect reader advisory is using your social media. This one is a screenshot of our Facebook page. And this is our list of new books that are available. And then other ways you could do indirect reader advisory. Some libraries do have a dedicated newspaper column or space in a local newspaper. It's an opportunity to do recommended reading in that column. Your library newsletter, again, you can have a column of recommended reading or staff recommendations. Your library website, again, you can have that section on that website that can list your recommended reading. Or public access catalogs. Some public access catalogs will allow you to upload a digital copy of the front cover of books, and you can use that almost as a virtual display. So there's just some other ways you can do indirect reader advisory.